I'm live now. Apologies for that. Whoever is hopefully can join on this now. So we're on. Are we on? I presume we're on. Apologies for that. Problem with the other phone. We had some glitches. And so this is called the Living Field. So, hey, Danielle, I'm just going to quickly this is the Living Field, and it's unfolded to get some amazing people on here and talk about amazing topics and to educate people. So I have a special guest, Danielle Gordon, who's MasterHerbalist, mother of 6, all homeschooled. It just kind of blows my mind. How did you get all your degrees and do all your, let's just say, learning? I've lost you, have I, again? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to carry on talking. Hopefully we can get Danielle back on.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now, Danielle. Can you hear me?
Excellent. So I can hear you now, but I can't see you, unfortunately. But not to worry.
Okay.
The voice is good enough.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, this is the Living Field show. This is like they say, the show Living Field streamcast, and I've just set this up so I can get people like you, amazing pioneers who I see are doing an amazing job, and share like your credibility for what you're doing, And the song we picked, I think, to me, I don't even really know you. This is the first time we probably talked, but the feeling I get, it depicts you, And I'm the youngest of 6. I have 3 amazing sisters. 2 of them have passed away. And, I was around when I was about 14 with my sister, with her first children, very young as well. So, I have a lot of experience with children and youngest of 6 as well. But how you have achieved what you achieved, in England, of all places, homeschooled.
It's crazy.
And six children, and got your degree in terms of MasterHerbalist. So this is Danielle Gordon. So would you like to share some of your story?
Yes. Hi, everybody. So my name's Danielle Gordon, as you know. First and foremost, thank you so much, Pete, for allowing me to share your platform. It's an amazing privilege and honor. Your work is fantastic, absolutely phenomenal. So a little bit about me. So I am one of 5, actually. One of 3 initially, but my mother and father adopted when we were young. So we became 5. I have 6 children of my own. When I first had my first 2 children, that's when I went to university, and partway through, well, just as I started, I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd born. So I actually gave birth during my dissertation. Wow. It was absolutely crazy. Wow. And then obviously I've gone on to have more children. So I currently have 6 children. In 2018, my son was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I won't go into the long history behind it because we'll be here forever. Yeah. But I was already on a bit of a rebellious journey. I'm a little bit anti-establishment. I don't quite like authority. I kind of think outside the box. So I had my first conscious awakening when I was about 18. So I was raised in the church, and it was very strict. We almost had church meetings daily. There was always something, a love feast, a brothers meeting, sisters meeting. And when I was 18, my partner at the time introduced me to Kemetic science and spoke a little bit about some of the things that contradicted some of the things that I'd been taught. And the cognitive dissonance that hit me was rife. I was in tears. I was somebody, I was in town handing out Bibles to people and trying to convert people and get them into the church. So it was a huge thing for me. But when I started to open my mind and my eyes to the new knowledge that I was receiving, it opened up my eyes to many other things in terms of health, the education system, just the system at large, and the way that it's ran, and the way that I now see it as indoctrination. So when my son was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 10 in 2018, I was already I was probably about 10 years into my journey of thinking differently and thinking outside the box. So I already knew that I didn't want to do things the conventional way. And I approached the hospital at the time. I'd already done a multitude of research, and I'd diagnosed my son about 3 months before the hospital. They didn't take me seriously at all. I think it took about 7 months from when he became poorly, 7 trips back and forth to the hospital trying to get him seen, because at the time I had a lot of knowledge and a lot of consciousness, but it wasn't necessarily in health. You know, I'd advise people to maybe use a specific oil. I don't want to say certain words on your platform just in case you get shadowed, but you can go on my page and see that. So I'd advise people to have specific oils, diet and lifestyle changes, to reverse diagnoses and things like that. But when it's your own child, it's a little bit scary. And I didn't feel like I was equipped enough at the time to walk that path. But I learned very quickly that the research and the evidence that I was unraveling, the mainstream industry was completely opposed to that. And even though they saw my son thrive when I gave him oils and herbs and things like that, they were hell-bent against it. You know, I was referred to social services. I was literally being watched like a hawk, even though my son was absolutely thriving in comparison to the other children that were on the ward.
You hear that a lot,
and just in general.
You do hear that a lot in terms of, you know, let's just say alternative, out of the box people recovering, and then you hear very same story you just said there. You know, you know, it is a shame, and like you say, when it comes down to your own child, but I would imagine where you are now is a very different person to how you were 10 years ago in terms of how
absolutely
well embodied you are in your ethos, in your thinking, and you mentioned Kemetic healing, and wow, what a wake-up call though. Like you mentioned, if you're that, you know, handing out Bibles and so, you know,
it was
into the religion of it. I mean, you know, I know so many people as well who have done follow the same path and have had a very similar awakening. But how beautiful, what I realize is, so let's just say your mind, it seems, you know, certain people's minds, and then they adapt that to like whether the knowledge that is hidden, you know, and the more Kemetic or esoteric, Essene, whatever ones we want to pick. And then you realize, of what I realized as well, it's just, it's very, you could say scary, but it's very, it's 360 degrees really. You know, what we've been shown, what we've been taught, what we've been indoctrinated is very not not very true.
It's very true.
I can't choose my words here, but
well, it is scary at the beginning, isn't it? Because you don't have a great breadth of knowledge. So the little bit that you do have, it is scary because you haven't got the knowledge to ground yourself. But the more that you learn, the more you realize, actually, all of this knowledge, it's innately within us. It's almost like a relearning and a remembering of what you forgot. That's almost what it feels like. Yeah. And I just feel so very grateful now, because my relationship with God is the strongest it has ever been. It wasn't like this when I was a part of the church. My relationship with my higher self and the divine source is so much more powerful now. And I am so self-assured, and any kind of stresses of the past that I used to have over life, I look at it completely different now. So my son's cancer journey, for example, I feel that I chose that before we came here. My children believe it as well. You know, my son, he's a very firm believer in his knowledge, and he understands that, you know, he feels like he chose that path also to put us on our highest timeline and become the person that I was supposed to be here in this 3D reality, because without that experience, we wouldn't be talking right now. Yeah. That's how crazy it is. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. Yeah. So I do feel like I look at my experiences very depolarized, not in a sense of them being good or bad, but the lessons that are within that we can actually use to propel our growth and become in alignment with who we are supposed to be, rather than see it as, oh, well, woe me. I look at things now that happen that maybe some people might think is very unfortunate as, right, this is happening because it is part of my divine path and it's pushing me in the direction I want to go. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. And I think it's just a willingness to be open. And one of the, some of the literature that I've read, something really stuck with me is to try and remain teachable, because it's when we stop being teachable and think that we know everything that knowledge and growth stops. And that's kind of been my ethos through this. I don't dismiss anything. I'm just very open-minded. And I've allowed that, I think, to guide me and my family and my children, just knowing that if I follow truth, all will be well. So that's kind of why I've been able to do the home education, raising 6 children alone. And because I feel like I chose that path before I came here. My children chose me before they came here. Yeah. My ex-partners chose me for the reason of their growth and their life path. So I'm a firm believer of the cliche statement of everything happens for a reason. Yeah, and I think it's just about trying to find those reasons within the madness. And when you do that, it can ground you and give you a sense of purpose.
What I found was beautiful over my journey over the many years is the more you could say, whether it's a gamble or you just trust that inner voice, keep trusting that inner voice and keep doing and trusting that inner voice. And yeah, you may get it wrong. But the more you do, for me, there's a resonance, there's a frequency of truth. There's a feeling. So the more the more you have a connection, we could say where we've worked on ourselves more. And, I'm going to say mine has been through more detoxing and foods, but it doesn't necessarily have to be just that. But just by following that intuition, it's like, I knew I should have done that, because it's just, you've gone down this other lifeline or path line that's just like 10 years. I look back now, it's just like, it's all perfect. However, I hear people say I wouldn't change my life for anything. My saying is, I wouldn't change it, but I wouldn't choose it again. That's my thing.
I really like that.
Because we're supposed to learn, aren't we? It's like, well, am I going to keep battling in the same potential difficult relationship? Well, no. Yeah. We learn and you learn. And again, as you say, there's been some situations and incidents where all my partners, say all, like I've got many, but my partners, long-term, 10 years, 12 years with older boys and an older daughter, and two other sons, younger sons, I have no bitterness, no malice against any of them, because ultimately it's just my inner bitterness. If I have any of them feelings, I need to just, I get slammed, I need to bring that energy back. Look what's going on going on in me. Like you mentioned your ex-partners. So, you could say it is a cliche, but it's many cliches, they don't all have to be kind of negative. They've been, I feel, overused and potentially bastardized and spiritual bypassed, used in many different ways. So I feel there's always a true essence of these words, and I have caught myself, it's like, oh, that one again, but it's like, oh, don't forget, just because it's been thrown around in the wrong contents doesn't mean there's not a true element, of, some of these things in terms of the choosing, again, trying to stay fluid with our thinking and open and not get too rigid in that we know, which is ridiculous because we stagnate time, we stagnate our mind, and we just become rigid, don't we, really? And
we do.
And then infestation happens, doesn't it? It's like things in the body.
And to add on to that, just to add on to what you said as well about how your thinking changes, and I think, and I know that you'll agree, I feel like we can only elevate so much based on where our diet is, because as my diet started to change, so did my thinking. And just through the experiences I've had with fasting, I did last year a Juicy July with a group where we had watermelon. We drank watermelon for the whole month. Wow. And halfway through, something in my mind activated, and I had to take a step back from the group, because the connection to source that I had, it was like an unraveling, and I just started to just know things. Everything just became so very clear. And I think one of the problems of the reasons why a lot of people aren't on their divine path is, one, getting in your own way. But I think the mind is very clouded, and that has so much to do with what we consume and put in our gut, because obviously we know the gut-brain connection and your vagus nerve and things like that. And you literally are what you eat, because you're your thoughts. And if your gut is unhealthy because the type of food you're eating is disturbing your gut microbiome and it's not giving you that electric nourishment that you need, then our brain is going to be affected. Because like anything we eat, I was thinking about this the other day, the food that we eat is useless to our bodies. What we're doing is feeding the little gut microbiome, and it's those gut microbiome that then turn that in a long process into the ATP that our cells need. So if we are not eating the right foods to feed our gut microbiome, all of the food that we're eating just for our lower vibrational physical taste buds of enjoyment, because that's one thing that fasting actually taught me. We do eat to sustain our bodies, but we eat through addiction as well, to fulfill emotional needs more so than we do to fulfill our physical needs. Because if we ate for our physical needs, the food that we would be eating would be more prebiotic type food to feed our gut microbiome, which is directly in line with what you're teaching, which is why I feel like we've connected at this point in my life, that it's just finally hit me. And I'm like, now I know exactly why the diet was working for my son, because what we were eating was in line with the electric foods that come from the earth. And we changed our diet and lifestyle completely, which elevated my thinking, and it put me in a position where I was then able to help my son. And it led on to home education and things like that, because obviously around the time it was lockdown happened just after that. And we just went on a kind of rebel journey at that point. I took all the children out of school. And we've just kind of maintained a bit of a sovereign life since that point. I have had one child since that happened, and I actually trusted myself enough to have a wild pregnancy and free birth. So I didn't actually I found out I was pregnant, didn't actually tell the doctors or the hospital, or I didn't get a midwife or anything. I just thought, right, I have the level of knowledge that I feel that I know I can sustain myself now. And I took herbs. I made sure my diet in particularly was giving me the minerals that my body needed to help my baby grow and develop. And I just let nature take its course. And I had the most wonderful birth at home with my family and the children. And it was out of this world. It made me want to become a doula because I just wanted to share my experience and let other women know that they could have that experience too, because I think it's so important, pre-conception even, to ensure that we are creating a healthy environment, not only within our womb, but within our body, because we're passing that genetic information onto our children, not just physically through the food, but spiritually as well. And I wanted to create such a high vibrational field so that my child wasn't bringing trauma through the portal into this realm. And he's outstanding.
Beautiful. I mean, you said so much there in terms of, it's like if we're going to plant a seed, we're going to aspire to get the best seed, put it in the best soil. So the man needs to be pretty healthy, pretty high vibe, cleansed. We do cleanses before ayahuasca and different things like that. Why aren't we just naturally in a state of a cleaner vessel, two vessels meeting? So potentially a higher vibrational being can come in as well. That brings me to this book I'm compiling, the Living Field and Children as Mirrors. When I was in my teens, I did sort of let's just say, at par with shadow work, constellation work, learnt astrology, breath work.
Familiar.
And then I got caught up in, not caught up actually, my path was with kids, children, and you know, beautiful two men now and daughters. It's all been beautiful. So yeah, it just slowed down to compile many stories within a book. And so
I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. So when you the free birth as well, we did a free birth with our 3.5 year old.
Oh, beautiful.
So that was just epic, and getting them stories out is so beautiful as well. You know, I mean, I had never done. Also, we did a lotus birth, which was another thing.
Yeah, we did that for my son as well. It was unbelievable.
It was honestly, I think if I was sitting in a group of men, I have shared it a bit, the energy that would come through me, I think it would be too much for the guys. What I honestly got, you know, I've done lots of breath work, I've done lots of this, lots of that, lots of this. And then I had my daughter on me. We did skin to skin for 10 days. I had her on me for like, within the first 10 minutes, because my partner needed to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
And then, that's it. We made an agreement. We was going to have skin to skin. So as soon as she passed me, our daughter, without even thinking, I'm just about to put her down to the side. And my partner's, what are you doing? Oh yeah. And then I'm just about to put a shirt on. This is how the subconscious mind works. And once again,
it does, doesn't it?
This is someone who's done quite a bit of work, but it kicked in subconsciously. I knew what was going to come on me. So she came on me, and I can honestly say it felt like what I got to the experience or the feeling of after a 5-day dry fast, I had instantly within 20 seconds with my daughter on me.
That sounds absolutely beautiful.
I'm having to breathe like I've never breathed before. It felt like a tornado coming, but it was all my inner. So it was, you know, just pure source on me. You know, I mean, might sound a bit overfetched for people, but honestly, it was the most beautiful experience that we had, you know. And
I think when you've experienced it, you have a knowledge that it's very difficult to transmute that to other people and let them understand. I think, it doesn't. There's just no words at all to encompass the power and the energies that are present, that are there. You know, when my son came into the world and we had the lotus birth, just doing that alone made me realize that's how all births should be, because the detachment of his cord happened so much more quickly and it healed so much faster than my previous births, where they'd cut the umbilical cord and put a thing on his stomach to clip it and clamp it. And I think those previous ones, they took like 7 to 9 days to heal. The lotus birth, his cord fell off in 18 hours and it was practically healed. But when I researched, it said that when you clip in the cord, you're creating a wound on the body. So not only does the body have to get used to breathing on its own, regulating its own energy and its nutrients, it's now got to heal the body from this injury that you've caused. Whereas if you don't create an injury, the body naturally just does what it's supposed to do. And it can, without having to heal the body can just use itself to heal where that cord is, tighten it up. Obviously, you're getting a lot more blood from the placenta as well. So the baby and that cord, it's going to have a lot more nutrients to do what it's supposed to do, rather than chop, discard a bit. You know, it's just, when you see it for yourself, you realise why things are that way. They should be that way.
You do, 18 hours is quick. I was about 4 or 5 days, I think.
But even that's very quick. A lot of people that I know that have had the lotus birth, or they've not clamped the cord and they've not cut it and they've left it attached, they do tend to heal a lot faster than people who because you're introducing infection as well when you're cutting and things like that. So there's so much to be said about it, but the world isn't generally very open-minded to things like that. You know, I was called all sorts of names for apparently putting my child at risk and things like that. You know, I was referred to social services again in that instance for apparently concealing a birth. And I was thinking, well, it's my body, it's my baby. I have every right to birth him in whatever way that I want.
Yeah.
I would have done it in nature if it was warmer, but it was February. So,
we had a very similar thing, but it's and then you start realizing the rites of passage for, you know, and then you could start seeing why so many people are lost as well.
It's very true. Yeah. And I think that trauma, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, of course, you know, the cutting is won't say it's the first, because there can be still trauma in the womb, you know, but you know, that's an added trauma shock to the system, you know.
It is.
And then, you know, they say it depends what we want to believe, whether it's 7 lineages or 10 lineages down on your dad's side, down on your mum's side. We carry that all through. And then we got the spiritual aspect of where we come from, or what family we may have come from there, as well as coming into these bloodlines. So it's all very interesting. Depends what we want to believe, and depends what experience we have.
There's a lot of ancestral things to be said. I read 2 books during that wild pregnancy. One was Birth Without Violence, blew my mind, and another one was the placenta, the forgotten chakra. It was awesome. It completely changed my mind, and I wish I could have gone back and had my other births in the same way. So.
And it's like the twin as well, isn't it? And then you discard it, and then when you realize it's the twin, we've all had the twin, so we've all had the placenta twin, and it's just like, you know, to think what's been done with it, as if it's like quite disgusting, and this, you know,
it is.
And there's all these stories in the hospital, what they're doing with it as well.
I know, it's really sad. It is really sad. Did you see the book where they said that other cultures, some other areas around the world, when they want to punish somebody, they remove the placenta from where they are, and basically, if somebody's committed a crime, like a heinous crime, I can't remember the culture that it was talking about, but they'll take their placenta and take it far away from the individual, so that they experience pain and suffering because of what they've done.
That's
mind-blowing. That is absolutely mind-blowing.
It just shows you the connection, you know. I don't think that's like myth or just you know, made up story. I think that's a very connected story. But what I realize, we are so disconnected.
We are,
so much, you know, so much to get to. All I will say is just like, when people talk about coming from the heart and this, I'm saying, like, I potentially maybe had a little glimpse. And they tell you all these wild experiences. Like, I've potentially had wild experiences, and, you know, people from potentially other realms, whatever we want to call it. But I would just say maybe I've had a glimpse, because I think we're so far down the line, let's just say, taken out from our culture, taken out, whether it's from the bush or whatever, that we've forgotten, you know. And then we see other cultures. It's always happening all the time, you know, whether it's
and that's the problem with the Western world. I feel like everything is a distraction from self. If you want any type of development, it's always going inward, going internally, whether you want to look at ancient teachings, even biblical things, you know, it all talks about going within. And I feel like everything in the world, not just obviously the things that we know about, the TV and the media, which is named after the sorcerer goddess of deception or something like that. But all of these things and aspects are around us to keep us distracted, so we don't wake up to our innate truth, because it's in everybody. Everybody has the potential to reach these higher states of consciousness. And I feel like life is just a journey of unlearning. And because we like you said, you know, from in the womb, ancestral, we have these traumas that we carry in, and it's about peeling back the layers, I feel, and just opening your mind up to the natural truths and the natural laws of the universe, and actually becoming balanced with those. And I feel like a lot of what we're exposed to in the world, not just food, but the toxins and chemicals, all of it is just dysregulating our nervous system and physically and biologically preventing us from being able to think with a higher state of mind. So when it becomes to detoxing, the diet's really important, but it just encompasses so much more. And I feel like it's just such a beautiful journey to be on. It's almost bittersweet, because I remember at the beginning of my journey, I used to wish I took the other pill. I wish I didn't wake up, because everybody is just so blind at times to some of the sadness that's going on in the world. And when you know about it, it can be really hurtful, but it's also very enlightening to be aware, because you realize that it's all for a divine purpose, and the collective consciousness we're literally creating in real time by what we think about, which is why I made it such a conscious effort to take my children out of school, because I wanted to be very intentional with what their minds were being programmed with. And I can tell the difference, just by when they're around other children that are perhaps within that structure of education, how differently my children's minds work, not just by being separate from that, but just by the different type of foods that they're consuming and the different information that they're being given. It's
and the peer pressure as well, the peer pressure from, the other children, it's
this need to fit in, isn't it?
Well, this is it. Otherwise, they could feel ostracized, and it's a fine line. I was witnessing that with my daughter as well. But so, like you mentioned, but the things are changing, because you woke up, I woke up, we are waking up. So, in terms of that is what is going on. However, I would say it's always good to know what field you're in, because it's like a battlefield, really. Someone could say, that's a bit negative. It's like,
tell me about it.
We come in. How we come in, especially if we're in the hospitals, it's just like, and then we got all these other things coming on. So it's good to know the field you're coming into, and then you can literally make sort of hopefully intelligent kind of ways to navigate, and when you talk about this dysregulated nervous system, I think that 90% of the people, like me in the past, so me in the past has been all of it. I've done this, I've done that. So me in the past, so dysregulated nervous system that I would never know. I thought that would have been norm. So what I'm going to say, there's probably about 95% of the people running that kind of program thinking that's norm. It's like fight or flight. So this is, I bring in a lot of this Jinshin Jitsu, which I've been certified about 19 years ago.
Looks really interesting, that.
Just starting to bring it in more, because I used to do loads of saunas and ice baths. I didn't need to use it as much and other things, but now we're not doing that as much. It's like, okay, in comes the Jinshin.
Yeah.
So they call it the grandmother of acupuncture, but there's many ways, different, whether it's Qigong, Tai Chi, to yoga.
Oh, I've lost you. Are you still there? I've still got internet signal. I can't hear you anymore, unfortunately.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. You're back.
Apologies. Glitches
That's
out of
okay.
it. So all these protocols help to come back. So, in terms of discipline, and trusting, and then someone could say that's all belief or fallacy, what I'm thinking. Well, I've seen the shift. It's like I've had feels like 4 or 5 different lifetimes in this lifetime. And if we was,
I can resonate.
However, for the people who don't, it's just like I could have come back 4 different lifetimes to experience, just to get through one of them hurdles, which I see people still stuck. And it's not putting anything down, putting anyone down. It's just, here we are, as trying to just from our experience share share the experience, whether we call it wisdom. It is relatively wisdom experience, because we've come through the other end, and this is not making us any better. It's just for the people who want to say all that and do that, go on another channel. But for the people
it's for the collective, isn't it? Well, in my earlier days, when you first come into certain a level of awareness, you almost want to wake everybody else up. You think it's your duty to tell everybody and get everybody moving. And, you know, I used to have so much back and forth and be really stressed that other people couldn't see what I could see. But then as I've grown, I realized that we do hop through these timelines of generating different levels of consciousness. You know, when I was maybe 18, certain things that I have just as normal thinking patterns today did not even cross my mind. So immunizations, for example, I didn't even think about it when my children were first born, when I had my youngest ones. It wasn't even something that crossed my mind, because I didn't even think, oh, everyone's doing it. I didn't think, should I or shouldn't I? I just went along with, it was like a robot mode. It was like level 1 programming. It didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, we were the same.
And as you grow, you start to have different levels of awareness, because you're picking, it's like a huge jigsaw puzzle. And at the beginning, I only had one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. But the more pieces that you accumulate throughout life, you start to see a bigger picture. But you can't see outside of your radar when you've only got that one piece. All you can see is what's on that one piece. And until you accumulate and experience, your level of consciousness then starts to grow. And now I am in a place where I just want to share. I don't want to ram anything down anybody's throat. I don't want to tell people that they're wrong, because truth is, it's subjective, because what is true for me may not be true for somebody else. Everybody's at a different level. And for me to force my beliefs or my ideologies or my way of living onto somebody that isn't a vibrational match to me, who am I to pull somebody out of their life path? I may be preventing them from lessons that they were needing to learn. At the time when I was learning, I had many people that were trying to help bring me up, because they were at lower levels of consciousness and they wanted to force things into me. And looking back, I do believe that there's nothing that anybody can do to force somebody's growth and force somebody's awakening, because it comes when you are ready to receive it. And I feel like trying to force somebody to receive maybe a level of progressed through to get there can cause more harm than good sometimes. So I am in that place of sharing, like yourself, where if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. I won't go back and forth and debate and argue with people, you know, online. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. And I realize that I haven't yet reached the end. You know, I feel like life is a continually learning journey. And I know that, you know, I'm 40 next year, and I know that in another 10 years time, when I'm 50, I'm going to look back at myself today and think, she was a baby, she knew nothing. But at the moment, I feel like I'm so grateful for the accumulation of knowledge that I have, because at one point I didn't have it. And I'm grateful that I do now, because it's made me make better choices for my children and my family, so that they can start on a better grounding than I did.
Yeah, I would. If I handed out medals, I'd give you a medal. I think you're doing great, you know. And no,
bless
honestly,
you. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
You know, again, youngest of 6, and I've seen my sisters struggle. I've struggled and come out of the struggle, and so you know, I've been in it as well to experience what it's like to come out of it. You know, so you know, it's amazing. And yes, me in the beginning, when I first learned these things, when I was more breath work and other things when I was 17, I wanted to share with everyone. So I kept sharing with everyone. But what I realized over time, it was for me. And then just for me to actually putting it out to try and share it too much with other people in the beginning was a distraction from me actually embodying it. So there's a classic saying is that you cannot do anything for me apart from work on yourself. I cannot do anything for you apart from work on myself. In the beginning, that triggered me many years ago. I get it now. Get it to the enough I need to get it. In terms of, so we carry on doing our work on ourselves uniquely, and then here we are, and we're able to share. So we're not staying in whether it's a sheeple level. We're able to just share if needed, you know, and I do see
Absolutely.
the detrimental effects when I look back. Not trying to push, but putting my emotion on why this person isn't changing. You know, and it's just like,
Yeah,
it's detrimental for the two parties. So, you know, the
it
more
is.
you draw that back, as far as I'm concerned, what I learned was any kind of trigger in me is, let's just say, residue of me,
Mm.
residue pain, residue stories in me. So, you know, I learned to kind of do certain practices to go into that. And then if you choose to do that, as opposed to blame, anger, guilt, whatever it may be, you can really come to the seed of that.
Yeah.
Not intellectually, it just shows you're in a scene, bang, there you are,
Yeah.
7 or 5, and you're in this scene that depicted the reaction to the,
Mm.
you know, what is
Yeah,
happening now.
absolutely.
So in theory, we can never really be now, because we've got a backlog of baggage.
It
You
is,
know,
isn't it? It's like
so
I realised that, like, our current reality is a projection of our past energy. It's what we have. I don't want to use the word manifested, but it's a result of past thinking. And that's been something that I've really had to ground myself in, with wanting to change my current circumstances. You have to have almost complete blind faith and be almost delusional and override this programming of the 3D reality, because what's here in our 3D reality isn't necessarily the truth. It's just old programming that you have, I'll use the word manifested. It's old programming that you have manifested and you're currently living in. But one thing that I've realised since, I'd say last year September, I had a massive growth path, and it showed visually as well. You know, my social media presence grew dramatically in just 4 months' time, and I think just embodying my true authentic self enabled that to happen. But what I had to do was almost ignore this 3D reality, because who I was in my head and where I was emotionally, spiritually, wasn't evident in my living circumstances and my living surroundings. But I felt like I had to just ignore my circumstances and have the sheer belief almost of, this is now who I am, rather than being triggered by my circumstances that almost want to constantly pull you back and make you believe you've had no growth, because you can't see it physically. You have to realize that the growth happens internally before you see it. It's almost, I was reading something recently, it was talking about consciousness, which is thought, precedes reality, which is matter, not the other way around. And I think we have to embody ourselves and set our own frequency and vibration, and then we will see it manifest in front of our eyes, rather than worrying about circumstances. If we're worrying about circumstances, we will never change anything. We have to focus on self and raise ourselves. Somebody, who was it that said to me? Somebody said to me, you can't, herbal intent, I shout him out. He said to me the other day, you can't fix a problem with the same level of consciousness that created the problem. And that statement alone just completely opens that paradigm up, because it makes you realize that until you change who you are, nothing changes. So trying to change somebody else is completely obsolete.
And it's a big distraction as well.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
so many times. But you know, you could say from being a good-hearted person wanting to, but recognizing, you know, I see it time and time again, and I saw it time and time again in myself. The little message is for you. It's for you. And then be the change. Like, you know, the classic be the change. And then, I mean, on a level, if everyone really did the inner work, there wouldn't be the energy for all this war and torture, etc., because we will be dealing with the inner field, all the inner, say, trauma, battles. It's all our inner. It's all our inner universe.
It is. Everything starts within.
That's it. And you know, it can sound fluffy to some, but you know, sit down with me for half hour, I'll show you. I'll explain it a bit better. But, you know, I can explain situations time and time again with family members, me. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, a bit like you know, we could use the quantum physics in terms of, you know,
yes,
and keeping us in that fear, you know, false evidence appearing real, keeping us in that loop. You can see all the ways the system, you've come from there, I've come from there, you can see how complicated it is made to come out of that, you know. To me, it's simple, but it's complex. It's made complex. It's simple.
It is made really complex, and it is, like you said, very simple. It is so simple.
And again, to be in the battle on our minds. Once you start hacking that, even though, like you say, you had a big following, and it's just like you didn't feel in line. Just go with it.
It was. I had to take a step back because I had the imposter syndrome, where I was doubting that I was who I said I was. And, you know, I had a mentor at one point who was constantly kind of pouring into me and was trying to explain to me that, you know, other people believe in you more than you believe in yourself. You know, these people aren't just trying to, I don't want to say gas you up. It's not really the right word, but, you know, people are coming to you for help because what you're saying makes sense. What you're saying resonates. And I think because I was still very tied back to my previous life, I think one of the things that I said this to my children the other day, I said, you can know where you want to go in life. You can have the mindset for it. You can know right from wrong. But one of the things that we really need to work on is how do we retrain our nervous system to stop it reacting automatically from our old self, like ruining opportunities, for example. It took me a long time. I think this is the first live I've actually done with another creator.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on.
Because it's a privilege. It really is. And it's simply from doubting my own capabilities and looking at the future me and saying, one day I'll be good enough to do that. One day I'll be good enough to speak and give advice. And then it dawned on me then that there is no destination. It's just about being your authentic self and standing in true to who you are and being happy in who you are. And that's what attracts your tribe. If you're trying to be somebody else, you're going to attract people that like the person that you're pretending to be. And you can't hold up that persona forever because it will make you miserable and it will make you bitter.
And to me, this is okay. Other people are watching, but this is us. Our first time we've ever spoken. We're just having a truthversation, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like my spirit already knows you because we're a vibrational match, so it's not difficult.
No, that's it, and it feels great. And so a big thing as well, sort of low self-esteem inbuilt. Yeah, and low self-esteem. We're not worthy enough. You know, I had to get past that big time, and it still creeps in a little bit here and there. It's like, you know, but the more we step into a new sort of also healthy boundaries. I say to people,
healthy
10,
boundaries.
15 years ago, I would have to look that word up. You know, it wasn't in my consciousness. What do you mean? What's healthy boundaries? So, you know, if you're being stern or this and that, it's just like, they're just healthy boundaries. It's not being angry.
It's that saying,
not putting up with that anymore, you know?
Yeah. And it's not even a case of being mean. It's just being kind to yourself. Stop saying yes when you want to say no.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really, really struggled with. And it was literally last year when everything took off for me. It was only late last year, September, October time. And that was something that it was plaguing with me so much that I burnt myself out. I actually collapsed last year in October. And I don't think it was down to anything that I was doing physically, burning myself out. I was literally depleting myself, my true self. And because I was ignoring it, eventually it screamed at me and I had to pay attention. So what happened was I ended up being very firm with so many people in my life, and they didn't really like that apparent change in me. And I had to explain, I've not changed. I've just been true to who I actually am. I've been saying yes when I wanted to say no. And I've been compromising my own self, my own standards and my own worth to not upset other people. But when you don't do that, when you do that and to keep the peace, you disturb the peace within yourself, and then you're no good to anybody.
Yeah. And yeah, I've got many t-shirts, holy t-shirts in that field. And 20 odd years I look back, and then learning astrology and seeing the patterns within astrology as well. So and then you realize if you are being true to yourself, then your friends become that. So you attract more false friends.
You do.
You know? So, it becomes we become the self-fulfilling prophecies as well.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned
life
earlier,
just becomes easy.
And then you mentioned about the saboteur. Wow. Watching the saboteur in us, So this is where a holistic approach with the cleansing, with the fasting, and many things. This is how I see that I didn't have in the beginning. Only really got the food for 18 years ago, which was another jigsaw puzzle for me that was like, the penny had really dropped and really made sense, and really, I was really able to embody a more truest essence of myself. Still working through things, but the food now I don't even have to think about. So, and when you realize, in terms of, we talk about dysregulated nervous system, it's like having certain foods. It's like, wow, why is everything so calm? And then you realize, wow, the foods are just doing that.
It's true.
And then also clogging your senses as well when you think of the concoctions they have in bread and the concoctions.
It is exactly that. It's just a potion, isn't it?
So it's yeah. So that was amazing for me. And then because you can do things like, it's like one step forward, two steps back, because we're going back to the very same thing that we're doing every day. That is the reason why we are stuck. Might be doing workshop after workshop after workshop, degree after degree after degree, but you're still going home to the same potential relationship of friends, potential habits of food, and habitual ways, and then that didn't work. No, that would have worked. We haven't really, made the connection. So even with detoxing, it's less like I stopped that because of I had this, I had that. No, you're detoxing. So it's like, it's like the flower's just about to go boom, and then they stop because they have something, and then they go boom. So
I think a lot of the time people they don't want to change. I think people use the healing things that we talk about a lot of the time as a method to heal a disease or a problem. But when that healing is kind of leveled out and they're okay, they go back to their old toxic lifestyle. And I think I did that. I had to learn a really hard lesson. My son relapsed 2 weeks after he was cleared from cancer. And that was a huge wake-up call for me, because we did fall back into old habits. The natural healing, it worked and it was great, but we were so pleased for all that journey to be over. I can remember we had like a cinema film night, and I bought the kids some fizzy sweets, and 2 weeks later, I don't ever believe that it was completely gone. And I feel like that journey, we chose that. It had to happen that way, and I had this thought in the back of my head that it was going to happen. And it did. But it really instilled in me that what we eat, what we consume, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, it all contributes to what comes out of us and what our bodies produce. And we literally got straight back on it, hardcore. And there was no stopping, because I had to learn the hard way. I'm a bit of a stubborn one. I've always had to learn the hard way in life.
Me too. And isn't it crazy though? What we are taught to celebrate.
Yes. We think we say we're treating ourselves
with the biggest, the concoction of food, and the food combinations, and the oil and the grease, the salts, the sugar, this, that. So
so much harm.
That's not celebrating. So it's really
we're literally contributing to our own demise. But we look at it like it's a celebration. The humanity, they go out at the weekend and consume loads of alcohol and have a party. But what they're doing is weakening their immune system. They're damaging, they're shortening their life. and calling it celebration. And
then,
that's really hard for people to get over, because they struggle to have a good time without being intoxicated, because they're trying to escape trauma that they're not ready to heal.
That's it. It's so installed. But, you know, I think it's so beautiful. The more you come across more people, let's just say, working on themselves and coming through the other side of the tunnel, or through the whatever, coming through it, it's great, because then you're around more, you can be alive, and it's around lively foods and great conversations, and they're alive. We're alive. So, you know, you don't have to kind of shy away or have a drink to kind of open
Well, you don't have to be alone, do you? I think a lot of people retreat because their current circumstances and their friendships and their family, when you go on that healing journey, it's very lonely and isolating. And I think a lot of the time people revert simply because of that loneliness and isolation. But growth happens in the dark, you know, and I feel like it's a journey that all of us have to go through when we're growing at whatever stage and level that we're growing at. It requires isolation, and it requires getting used to being okay in your own company, and knowing that if you just continue to be true to yourself, you will attract those people that can join you in that path and join you in that journey where you can be your authentic self and you're no longer alone.
Yeah. And, you know, we've had some beautiful confirmations over the last couple of days. Just so beautiful. And it's this, you know, so the more you do and trust and sit in that faith, and then, you know, just know that everything is okay. And then, you know, like yourself, it's just like, yeah, but what do you mean everything's okay? This has happened. But if I look back in retrospect, all the experiences that potentially were called painful or disruptive, I can just see, wow, if that didn't happen, this wouldn't happen. Bum, 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 bum. So now if anything happens, just breathe. Just, you know, let it go, and trust. You know, I've had so many now. If I didn't, it'd just be ridiculous that I hadn't learned that yet.
You learn the art of detachment. That's one thing that I will say.
But in a nice way, though, because there's, you know, in a nice way. So I think it's just more the witness. So in other words, so could be a detachment of coldness. So it's not that. I feel it's because, you know, there's a detachment of just, you're just not in the fight.
It's to not.
Fight. You're not in the fight.
It's. I mean, it's okay to want things, but it's the relying and needing of something, of not being able to let go of something. Old relationships, for example, of that codependency. You've got to be. When you look at it in that context, you need to be okay with, okay, this relationship's ending. That's because it's not for me, rather than wanting to hold on to something that is evidently not for you, but the fear of being alone, or the fear of the unknown as well is massive, I think, as well.
Yeah, which we I'm sure we all have done. And then, you know, so like you sort of said, the attachment is a big thing, but, you know, that can come down to our insecurities. The more we know ourselves, know thyself, the more, you know, it is easier, really.
It is so much so.
You know, like the child, 1 minute it can be, it's like the end of the world, and the next minute it's just like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. I'm like, how did that just happen? It's, you know, it's like the end of the world, and then the next minute it's happy as everything.
I'm listening to it the minute I just heard my 3-year-old screaming and crying, and now I can hear him laughing. It's literally been 60 seconds.
Beautiful. So, you know, we are meant to be getting back to the childlike before we can go through the you know, up to heaven through the gates.
Become like a child.
That's it. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to wait for that. We can be in heaven.
We can embody it right now, because the only thing that we have is now. And worrying about the future it's a long, relentless, pointless journey, because the only way we can change our future is based on what we do today. And that is in regards to anything that we want to accomplish in life, but also down to our health as well. It's the decisions that we make today that determine what our health's going to be like in 10, 20 years time. And that's something that I instill into my children. You know, they see their friends and wanting the sweets and the treats and things like that. And I always say to them, you know, one day you're really going to thank me, because who knows what their health is going to be like in 10, 20 years. You know, children are being born today with kidney problems, you know, chronic kidney failure and things like that. And it's just a really sad state of affairs. And when you know better, you just want to do better so that your children and other people don't have to suffer the same experiences that you did, you know. And I think that's all I want to do on this journey. I want to be able to share my journey in order to be able to empower others and help others. And I think when you look at your existence and see how you can use your experiences and your passion to be a service to others, I feel like the world would just be such a beautiful place if everybody did that, rather than look at what they can take. Just look at what you can give, because if everybody gave, you would have an abundance. You wouldn't have to worry about taking.
This is it. So there you go. It's beautiful. That's my thing as well. You know, even just doing the 17 years, taking the calf and the sauna to festivals after 2 years on, a year and a half on the food, getting a sign, right, go and share that. I'm like, really? Do I have to? So sharing that with, because I knew about other work, mirror work as well, really sharing it with my mirrors, you know.
Yeah.
These people are all my mirrors, all a reflection of me. So
they are, when you
like,
realise that.
Oh my gosh,
Boom.
You know,
that's a boom moment as well, isn't it? I am you and you are me.
Yes. And then, but we can all sit on a mountain, we can all, you know, say them words, but actually getting in the field and doing it is a different topic. Taking that step is 100% a different topic. You know, and I would say to anyone, just keep, you know, bring in just something each day and just bring it in, discipline each day and then bring a little bit more. You know, that's the repetition. Repetition is going to break the old. Don't think about the old. Don't worry about the old. Just bring in the new. Keep bringing in the new. If you're going to keep bringing up the old and worrying about the old, you're just feeding the old. It's
you are.
Like, feed the new.
Absolutely,
feed the new.
I agree.
Just think about the new. Keep doing the new, you know? And then... and then things shift, and it's so beautiful. You mentioned as well being in the now. By being in the now, you know, there's many things in the spiritual world about ancestral healing, but that's doing the ancestral healing.
Yeah,
us doing the healing right now is doing all that lineage healing.
It is.
People don't realize, rather than making a big to-hoo about it, it's just like that.
Yeah, because we can visit it to learn from it, but the problem is we don't want to stay there, you know. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge, like, one thing that I will always say to people: don't try and be high vibrational and completely omit negative feelings, because that's what I used to do. I used to punish myself for anger. I used to punish myself for any emotions that I thought were low vibrational, and thought, no, I'm not allowed to feel those. But you're preventing your healing when you don't acknowledge where you're angry, because those feelings are telling you something. They're either telling you you're not happy where you are, or that you're in an environment that you're not supposed to be in. It's really important to acknowledge those negative feelings, so call it, i.e. your shadow, which is what you've spoken about, instead of trying to omit that darker side of us and be this. Yeah,
but then you can just change the perception. So the old paradigm perception, seeing it as, you know, we're beating ourselves up about it, seeing it as negative. But so it's really interesting. I've witnessed the feeling now. I've just changed the feeling. However, I tell people, I can wake up in the rising and I can feel the old paradigm feeling, and I witness it. Wow, that's that old feeling, but I've changed it. It's not
becoming a watcher of your thoughts. That's something I learned along my path. You know, understanding that your thoughts are not you. They don't define you. They're just thoughts, and just observe them. And it's really interesting when you start to consciously become a watcher of your thoughts, because you realize that it's all me. Everything around me is because of me. And that takes a lot of self-accountability, I think.
There you go. And that's what I say. It's just like, if anyone catches me blaming all this or that, just pull me up, please, because you know,
me too. I'm all for the constructive criticism.
Yes, that's it. We're the architects, you know.
We are.
And then if we're going to preach, not even preach, but say certain things to other people, it's just like, well, you know, if something's coming on top for me or believed, then, you know, I've made that happen. I've manifested that. However, you know, it's being the witness again. It's like, wow, that's really interesting. Or even by divine intervention, But just not being, it's the attachment, isn't it? How attached am I to that? And that's a big one because of our children, our relationship. Of course, there's a lot of attachment.
Yeah.
I've been shown to still have discernment there. That's a really interesting
discernment,
one.
that word.
Yeah, you know, but having to go through certain personal regressions, going through experiences with close ones to like let it go. Whoa, you know, so it's really beautiful because I'm freeing them as well as freeing myself.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, very
you know,
much
if I'm
so.
going to worry about them, pray for them and all that, it's like, you know, get out of their life, you know. It's their unique life. I don't want anyone really putting that on me. You know, the classic one of, you know, we're healing the ancestors, healing this and that. You know, if I was an ancestor, it's just like, look, just get on with your work, please. Can you leave me alone?
Yes.
You know, so it's just like, it's a similar thing. It's just like,
I've got you here, now it's your job. Now go and do what you're supposed to do.
You know, stop distracting. It's a distraction. You know, we are the ancestors. It's all in us. We are all one, you know. We are all encompassed of that. So it's an interesting journey anyway.
It is.
I mean, so you're doing amazing work, obviously.
Thank you.
And you're doing herbal consultations.
Yes, so I've got the consultation didn't come first, so that's something that took me a long time because of the imposter syndrome. So I was Heal Thyself, and then I joined Business Ventures in 2022 with my current business partner, and we've got the Alchemist Co. So we have a supplement business, and I do consultations as well and help people heal through diet and lifestyle changes. But I'm dabbling in it quite a bit at the minute because I've got obviously another account where I'm trying to teach financial literacy and kind of alternative education, because my homeschooling is very different from I generally let the children do what they want and I support them in that. So I'm very child focused, and so far, touch wood, it's worked very, very well. I feel that children know exactly who they are, and you just have to help them in that journey.
There's lots of literature on that as well.
Yeah, through the conscious awakening.
It's not
so there's that. Trying to teach them financial literacy as well. There's something that I wasn't taught and we're not taught in schools that's very important. Yeah, just a few things. I've got a couple of things that I'm trying to bring about. I've got a few books that some of them unfinished that I still need to do. I've been doing a bit of a bio about the journey that I went through with my son. But writing it I'm taking my time writing it, because writing it, I'm reliving it, and I'm healing through it as well, because it's opening up a lot of feelings that I didn't allow myself to feel at the time. So I'm doing it in short bits, because otherwise I'd sit there in a mess of crying and just releasing constantly. It's a lot to look back and think, wow, you really went through that. It's a lot. So yeah, I'm doing that at the moment, and I've got a few little other ventures that I'm hoping to launch soon. There's I've got a god and goddess, because we grew a lot of food over the years as well, just self-sustainable living and things like that, and just trying to learn and teach the children how to survive without the system, because I do feel at one point, whether it's in our lifetime or another, it's going to fall. So during lockdown, you know, they learned how to fish, they learned how to set traps, start fires, forage, you know, self-defense. I taught them how to shoot. Like we did everything. So I could probably drop my children in the middle of a forest, come back 2 weeks later, and they would have built a whole den, and they'd be alive, and they'd be all good and well, and they'd be fine. So just learning, just truth. I think that's what it is. It's just learning and unraveling truths and creating environments that are going to expand consciousness, because it's a never-ending journey.
Yes, and you know, obviously coming out of the box of, you know, the contained box, you know, there's so much more the younger ones can learn, and it's so nice to sort of mentor, you know, kind of subtly in different ways, and showing different people different ways, and even, you know, people in their 20s as well, you know, 20s, 30s is still haven't had that kind of sharing. So, you know, you realize, and for whatever reason, I mean, I didn't really I had sort of stepdads around and quite a lot of messy stepdads around. So I had to go through a lot to come to an essence of myself, of who I am, really. So it sounds beautiful. So yes, you have supplements. I think you have creams as well, all made of natural.
Yeah, so that business, that one's on hold a little bit at the moment because I've got a loose leaf tea that is, you're the first to know about that, actually. I was working on it last night, so that's going to be available very soon, because I'm a very firm believer that when supplements are great, and they were great at the time, taking them in capsules when I was learning and when I was at the beginning of my journey, and I was trying to bring consistency into it, because, you know, when you're back and forth and you're all over the place, you just need something that is convenient sometimes and easy. And they played a huge part in my son's healing, which is why I started to do them myself and create this The Alchemist Co brand. But I do feel that loose leaf tea has a lot of benefits as well in regards to healing. Just the fact that they're steeped in water, and they pull out a lot of the water soluble components that you wouldn't get if you had it as a dry herb. So it's just experimenting with different things and just trying to grow so that I can leave a legacy to my heirs, basically. So this next business, it's going to belong to my daughter, my one and only daughter. So I have 5 sons and 1 daughter.
Oh, so she's free?
No, she's the second to last. So my youngest is my son, so he's 3. But she's the youngest out of the older 4 boys. So I had 4 boys, and then I had a daughter who was number 5. You can imagine I was absolutely ecstatic. I was doubting that I was going to be blessed with a daughter, but I was, and she's wonderful. She's she gives all the boys a run for their money. I'll add that in there. She's a wild one. Beautiful. But she's strong, because she sees me, and she's going to be the apple. They always say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So she's a mini me.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I mean, we will I reckon, call it an end, coming to the end. So
definitely, because I know I'd be speaking till gone the morning into the next day if we could, but we will definitely catch up again.
And we will definitely have to do it again. And
it's been absolutely lovely. Thank you.
It's just been nice. It's been spontaneous, just following through, pushing through to do this kind of stream. I've had it going on in my mind for ages, so we just took the time in. My partner supported me, and just to, you know, do it, me chat about whatever topics, and then have people on like you, which has been beautiful. And, you know, for whoever comes in and gets to see this, whatever information they want to take from that's just like 2 souls. We're just 2 souls sharing our stories. And again, you know, we crossed about wild birth, lotus birth, and herbs, and many things on this topic. And, you know, no one gives themselves a hard time. You know, I look back, and I'm sure as Danielle will look back, we've all come out of I would say, quite traumatic or messy type of experiences to get to where we are now. And it's just
absolutely.
So don't no one give themselves a hard time. Just
definitely not.
On the back and just do the next best thing. I remember someone saying I was on 40 days on a juice fast, and I did do 120 days on a juice fast. And someone saying, "Oh, Pete, that's amazing. And this person's just come off alcohol, come off drinking, and smoking, or something else." I'm like, "You're amazing. What do you mean? What you've done is amazing, you know?"
So we shouldn't be competing with anyone other than ourselves.
You know, me, I'm way down the line, 17 years. That was maybe, not so much a walk in the park, but it was.
Yeah, I say that to people, it took a long time for me to get where I am today. So when I do have people that admire where I am, it's sometimes quite difficult to even accept that gratitude, like that thanks from people, because it's become such a normal part of my life now, and I'm already on to the next thing sometimes, and I have to ground myself instead of worrying about where I'm not yet. I have to just give thanks for where I am right now.
That's what we can do, really.
Yeah, it's a journey, isn't it?
Yes. So, I say this is anyone. This isn't any medical advice. It's just us sharing our stories.
Absolutely.
Could say it's all for entertainment too, for
yeah.
certain reasons. And thank you ever so much, Danielle. And I would love to have you on again, and I'd love to talk to you more. And I'm sure, yeah, you are Nottingham, huh?
I am, yes, Nottingham.
Yeah. My partner's was in Nottingham, born in
Oh,
Nottingham.
lovely.
So,
well, yeah, we'll definitely touch base again, and I'm sure we're going to be lifelong acquaintances, because my tribe does seem to be appearing around me, and you were definitely one of them. So it would be lovely.
We'll give you more personal messages of where we're truly at and what's going on for us as well.
Absolutely, yes, definitely.
Well, thank you ever so much, Danielle, and it's been a pleasure having you on. So I hope everyone watching, go to Danielle's Gordon's site. She has some lovely, let's just say, lovely herbs, many things on there anyway. Like you say, some new ventures coming up. And
to yourself as well. If anybody off my page sees this live, please do go over to Simply Roger's page. You'll be mind blown. I am going to purchase your set of those books because I'm definitely wanting to learn a few more raw diet meals. They look absolutely amazing. So guys, go and check out this page because it will blow your mind.
Beautiful. Yeah, and for me to sustain it, it's like having your little child. Maybe your 3-year-old now. How can I get her to eat these foods? So I've made them, just the same, but surpass anyway. And the feeling that you're left with, you're not left with kind of slumber or depleted, etc. But anyway, so thank you ever so much, and it's been a joy having you here.
Thank you kindly. Speak soon.
Yes, big love.
You take care. Big love. Bye.